The GallowgateShots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the North East's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview. We are turning our attentions to the Nottingham Forest away game. I am Scott, I'm your host for this one, and this week I'm joined by Daryl and Andy. Boys, 2 wins on the bounce. Can we make it 3? It's going to be a tough one, this, I think. Let's find out.
Thanks for watching.
Yes. Bye-bye. With the titles. Nottingham Forest. It's on Sunday, 10th of November. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff at the City Ground. We are not on the TV. I don't believe.
Sorry, Scott. It's 3 p.m. for you, 2 p.m. for the rest of us.
It's 2 p.m. kickoff, isn't it? Yeah, that's this. I'll tell you.
Brexit time. It's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock for you, Brexit time. So you Trump supporters. Yes, it definitely isn't on the telly. I know I've asked like 3 times, but it's definitely not on TV for you guys. I looked on live soccer TV, but I think you've got the show 3 games, and you're not one of them.
Really?
I'm not one of them. But yeah, it's on.
Scott, how are we supposed to watch the football if it's not on Sky?
Exactly.
There must be a way.
I'm in the UK, and it's not on Sky. So who knows? Anyway. Forest are not doing too shabby. 3rd in the league on 19 points. Champions League spot. They're going to win that elusive Champions League yet again next season. They're on 5 wins, 4 draws, and 1 defeat. They've scored 14 goals and conceded 7. That puts them on a +7 goal difference, which, by the way, the last 3 teams we've played have been on a +7 goal difference because I had to change my notes for 3 weeks on the bounce. I've got some commentator stats, and that wasn't one of them. But there we go. Here's some more. Nottingham Forest have won just 1 of their 12 Premier League games against Newcastle. Drew 3, lost 8, picking up a 3-1 win. Guess when? Last season. And who scored? Chris Wood. And how many did he score? 3. It was a hat-trick. That's right. However, against no other side have Newcastle played more Premier League away games without ever losing than against Nottingham Forest. 6 played, 3 wins, 3 draws. And in fact, our last top-flight defeat against Forest at the City Ground was in May 1987.
Wow.
This is the first time Nottingham Forest have faced Newcastle in a top-flight match whilst they've been above us in the league. That's since March 1989 when they drew 1-1 at the City Ground, and I think we were like in 19th and they were in 5th from what I read. I didn't bother putting it in my notes because I didn't think it was important. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, and I did. And then finally, Forest have won each of their last 3 Premier League games, which we've mentioned earlier. Last winning 4 in a row in the top flight in April, May of 1995, which was the season that saw them finish 3rd in the table. So if they beat us on Sunday, they're going to come 3rd, they're going to get Champions League football, and they're going to probably do it all again, and history will repeat itself. So let's see what happens. Andy, mate, Nottingham Forest, Elliot Anderson, Chris Wood, Matt Sells. It's just Newcastle from when? 2017?
Well, something like that. Although two of those 3 were absolute dog when they played for us, and now they look like the best players in the league. It's
What's going on? But yeah, tell us a bit about Forest.
Yeah, it's just, I think they've just been the surprise package of the year. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but I think people have had them tipped for relegation. I mean, I don't want to even think about my prediction because I maybe said them myself. They seemed like such a shambles of a club last year. Their owner was just throwing the toys out the pram every single game, threw his season ticket into the street, something like that. He was like hurling abuse at refs and putting things on social media and all sorts. It just seemed like everything was going wrong for them. And I think just keeping in the league, it's just gave them that sense of security where they could then spend a bit of money and really build something. And I think it shows why teams will flog a dead horse so much to stay in the Premier League when they come up, because the riches are there. If you can just stay for 2 or 3 seasons, you can do what they're doing now. And in terms of the results, they've obviously been absolutely unbelievable. It's the question now is whether they can sustain it. I mean, as a purist, I love the fact that Forest and Villa are up in Europe at the minute. It's just tugs on the heartstrings a little bit. The one bit of mitigation I would say is that relatively the fixtures have been all right. They've played Bournemouth, Southampton, us in the cup, Wolves, Brighton, Fulham, Palace, Leicester, West Ham. However, they have gone away to Chelsea and Liverpool, drawn at Chelsea, and beat Liverpool, which is Liverpool's only defeat. And I think it was the only goal they'd conceded in the first 10 games. So they're no mugs. And I just want them to have a little blip against us and then carry on, because I actually really like Forest. And when we went down there last season, as much as I didn't necessarily enjoy the stewarding, I did enjoy the locals, and they were a really nice bunch. So.
Yeah, how is that City Ground Stadium ban going for you, Andy? Are you still on the blacklist?
I have no idea. I mean, I technically didn't go to the game, so.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, well, that's good. That's a good thing. I think, Daryl, mate, everyone expected Forest to be like Andy said, relegation fodder, or in and around that this season. But I think they sold one of the well, not one of the star players, but one of the up and coming players for
Lacademos?
No, well, yeah, it was.
How could we forget?
Troubles, and they've managed to keep hold of maybe it's a couple of players that a lot of people thought would jump ship in the summer, and it's steadied the ship, like Andy said. It's steadied the team, and it's made the team all just pull in the same direction, and it's showing. Like they've managed to ride the wave of the first couple of seasons in the Premier League, which if you can do that, you kind of end up in the situation there where, you get like Brighton and Wolves and us to an extent when we came up, where you get that kind of wind in your sails and you just continue as you go on, and hopefully Forest can cement themselves in the Premier League, and hoping if this is anything to come by, they will.
Yeah, I think it's, we got to give credit to Nuno. He's firmly got his feet under the table there now, and he's been able to really imprint his vision on the side. And we've just talked about there some of the impressive results that they've already picked up this season. Andy mentioned the likes of your Brightons and that. And, we found that Brighton have been a bit of a surprise package in some games this season in terms of their style, and they certainly got the best. They certainly got the best of us at St James's not too long ago. But you watch the way Forest play, and I paid particular attention to that League Cup game that we went and played there in September, and we really sort of got one over on them by hitting them early and getting that early goal. And it really put them in a bit of a shock. Yeah, it was really, really early on, and I think it's probably going to take something similar from us again on Sunday. We're really going to have to come out the blocks and hit them early, just to try and shock the game into life. And they've been quite solid as well. Like you mentioned there with the goals conceded. It's only 7, and if you're only conceding 7 after this many games, you're doing quite well. And it's certainly a solid start in that respect. And that defense last season, I don't think there's been that many changes to it. Maybe 1 or 2 have come in, but it's just a sign of what Nuno's doing on the training pitch and getting them into a style and into his vision and into his system. And we also have to remember the key roles that former players of ours like Chris Wood and Elliot Anderson are playing in that. I think they're quite, he's made a really good impact out there as Elliot Anderson, and they're raving about his performances. And I was listening to a couple of things earlier on tonight, and a lot of people put it down to his presence in that team being one of the key reasons why they're doing so well. And I think, if I remember rightly, watching them playing at Leicester very recently, Elliot really dominated the game in that midfield when he was getting around. And I think the one thing that's missing from Elliot's game at Forest this season is still that elusive goal. And that's something that we were quite familiar with, and he didn't really manage to get that for us.
Well,
despite the fact, he did. He scored a perfectly legitimate one at the City Ground that was ruled out. And I'm quite in the same camp as Andy now as well. We had some demons to exercise at that ground after, when we first went back to play them in the Premier League after that shambles of a game in the Championship season, when we got 2 red cards and still managed to take the lead in that game before being
It's a game of
beaten
pro clubs,
in
that
the
wasn't
end.
it?
Yeah, exactly. Just absolute, totally pro club style game. I know we sort of got an element of revenge in the return fixture at St James's that season, but it was nice to go back there recently when we first played them again when they came up and exercise that team and get a result then. And it is, you mentioned the record that we have there in the Premier League. It's quite an impressive one, really. I'd love to know which other teams have a similar kind of record against another Premier League side. Because I bet you there's not many.
Man City against us.
Shush.
Yeah,
Shush.
probably.
Stop bringing the tone down, you.
Yeah, Andy, I suppose obviously we've talked a little bit about Elliot Anderson, but we'll have to maybe shine a bit more of a light on him because he is obviously the player we didn't want to lose and the player we had to lose for PSR purposes. We saw Yakubu Minty bottle it and not play against her. We saw Mikel Merino come back and bottle it and not play or not perform against her. Is this going to be the one where the player comes back and haunts her?
Well, we also saw Johan Kabay come back as director of football for PSG or whatever it was and bottle it. But
I mean, we talked about this word earlier coming back and haunting us, so this is going to be the one.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Anderson did something, it would cut deep, wouldn't it? There was that clip of him. There was the clip of him after the League Cup game where he was looking at the away end, chanting Sandro and all those other songs that he's heard in a black and white shirt so many years, and you could see that it was stinging him a bit as well. It's just sad that we've had to. It's just such nonsense that we even had to sell him, isn't it? All just to balance books, to please people who don't really have any involvement in football at all. It's all just accountants and politicians really that influence. So it's a big shame because the lad obviously worked his backside off to get into the team, and we all felt like the season he was going to have his big shining season, but then got injured. So we thought, right, it'll be this season when we finally get to see him at his best, and then we've had to let the poor lad go. But I mean, I don't think anyone looks back with anything other than just pride at what he's doing at Forest now. He's been so good for them. I think the fact that another fan base has taken to him as well as we loved him, despite him obviously not being a local lad at Forest. They all sing Geordie Maradona. They all love him. They all think he could be the next big thing. And even going back to when he was at Bristol Rovers, all those Bristol Rovers fans still say he's the best player we've ever had when he scored 4 goals in the last game of the season or whatever it was for them. So yeah, all I want is for him to keep doing what he's doing, and then hopefully we can snaffle him back when he's an icon on FIFA, because the lad's amazing. And I just want to touch on Chris Wood as well because, I mean, just to keep it brief, we all remember his performance against Sheffield Wednesday. The lad was done at that point. It just felt like he couldn't hit a barn door. And Nuno's just got him a bit like when Ancelotti went to Everton and had Calvert-Lewin banging them in. He's just got him in the 6-yard box, just nod it in, be a poacher, don't do anything else. And that's maybe what we should have done with him a bit more, because the lad's a decent finisher. But again, with Wood, if he comes back to haunt us for a second time, I think I might just rip my season ticket up, to be honest. I don't think I can handle it twice, because that hat trick when he put Sven Botman on his backside, I mean, he looked like prime Ronaldo. It was ridiculous. But yeah, 2 lads that I wish all the best for, but not next week.
Dan Burn to deal with this week, so Dan Burn will teach me thing too. Maybe he's not. We'll say, well, don't, please not. No. We'll turn our attention to us. Obviously, I think still the big talking point, Daryl, is the middle of the park. The man who's on your wall, Mr. November.
There he
Sandro
is.
Tonali. I mean, he's only that because he's on the calendar. He's not really Mr. November, but there we go. I think they're touching it on Monday night. He's got rest now. It's not being resting if he doesn't start this week. He is being dropped. But is it a Tonali versus Bruno scenario and kind of starting in the middle? Are we still in a scenario where we don't know how to play them together? Are they too much of a similar player? Or are we still just in a point where we can't really experiment with putting one on the left and one in the middle for much of a game in case it doesn't work?
Yeah, I think, I think at the moment it is going to be one or the other. And I say that mainly because like you can't play both of them in the middle of the 3. And we all now know that the middle of the three is the key position for both of them. To a degree, I'll say on that, but certainly for Sandro, we have seen the best of him when he plays in the centre of a midfield three. The Chelsea game at home in the cup was the pure epitome of that. He ran the show, and he gets involved. He could do his job. You know what it is? He was put in there and he was allowed to just do his job, and he did it really well. And we got a result out of it. And I think what I should caveat is that the main point is I think he'll go unchanged on Sunday to the Arsenal game, so it'll be the same 11 that started against Arsenal. However, we talked about whether or not the two of them can play together, and there was a short spell in that Chelsea game in the cup where he brought Bruno on, and Bruno played on the left of the three. And whether or not he was specifically instructed not to do it, but he didn't seem to get in Tonali's way. And for whatever, there was a bit more communication, a bit more structure about it, and they were able to communicate better, and they were able to swap around. It was only very briefly, but
if I can jump
seemed
in there,
to work.
Daryl, just because
I
don't know if you saw this, but I think Craig Hope asked him a specific, I remember Keith Downey specifically asked Eddie Howe about playing Tonali in the middle of the three and Bruno further forward. And he answered it interestingly by saying he thinks Tonali's best position is the deeper role.
Yeah.
But he said the issue is that Bruno would have to play more positionally if he played further forward. So I don't know whether it's a tactical thing that Bruno's maybe not as good in terms of, it's not necessarily about Tonali, it's more about where's the best place for Bruno. And he said that Bruno is the sort of player that needs to be around the ball all the time. So he clearly feels like he's got more influence there, and Tonali's the one that has to make way. But I think, like you say, we've seen Tonali do that role as well, and I think a lot of us would like to see Bruno further forward because he's really good in the tight spaces and things. So it's not an easy one, but Eddie Howe's clearly thought about it.
Yes, and I think the more he thinks that, I think the more he can get into Bruno's ear, I think, and provided he can give him the instruction required. We've seen him work wonders with plenty of other players about how he wants them to play, and if we can find a way to fit Bruno in that three. I mean, the problem then becomes is who do you leave out? Because Willock's been in good form. Joe Linton's been in good form with his interchanging role with Willock, and we all now realise that Sean Longstaff is the key to balancing that squad. He is the one that brings balance to that midfield, and if ultimately the entire 11 with the job that he does. And it's not the prettiest job, and we know he has his limitations, but by crikey, we do miss him when he's not there. But yeah, I mean, that midfield three is crucial, and like I said earlier, I think it'll be unchanged.
Yeah, the stats don't lie. The stats do not lie. Yeah, it's a tough one. It is a tough one. Moving a bit further to the pitch, I know we've already said we expect it to be unchanged, but Gordon on the right, Andy, we never saw that coming, did we? Seems to be working wonders.
It was like Keith Gillespie to our sprayer, wasn't it? It was unreal.
Oh, it was lovely.
Well, we've said all the way through that Gordon can play on the right, and I think it was just I know Shearer made the point about it being from the 90s, but it's just such a nice throwback to have a winger who plays on the side of his foot. So it isn't just the constant cut inside and have underlaps and overlaps into play. You can just run at a fullback and whack it in the box, which sometimes when you're playing, it was probably different against Arsenal, but sometimes when you're playing against teams that are going to sit off you and you're going to break them down, sometimes you have just got to whip it in. And he looks really good there. And I do think Gordon's best position is on the left. But Daryl used the term before about balance. The team just looks so much more balanced when it's Gordon on the right, Joe Linton on the left with his physicality, with Willock, Longstaff, Bruno, Isak. The whole thing just seems, the cohesion's just so much better. And we're not tactical experts, so we probably can't put our finger on it 100% why. But just looking at it as fans and people who understand the game a decent amount, it is just better. And I don't think Gordon's necessarily gone in a huff about it either. I did worry about that he's kind of this superstar left winger that's just signed a new deal to be our superstar left winger, and he's immediately put on the right for a central midfielder effectively. But he seems to be thriving there. And if he can whip crosses like that in once a game, then we're on to a winner, really.
Yeah, if only Chris Wood had that sort of service.
Chris Wood, what?
He would have absolutely thrived. He would have still been playing for now. Anyway, I think the one thing with Gordon is obviously he's also got one eye on England, and I don't think he's going to get on the right side of England. It will be on the left if he's playing, and if he's on the right every week, it could scupper those chances a little bit. But I don't know whether he's one of those players where he'll be automatically picked regardless. Kind of like a
Well, I mean,
Kieran
England
Trippier,
managers play Phil Foden out of position constantly, so they get all that. Yeah.
That is true. Well, Thomas Tuchel, we'll see what he decides to do. We'll be unsure, but yeah, it'll be maybe it's like a Trippier role where he plays on the right for his club, and then he comes to a country and he plays on the left anyway, so it doesn't matter. So we'll see.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. Daryl, mate, we'll come to you for obviously the important part of the match preview, and that is the man in the middle.
We've already talked about that, Bruno.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, apart from Bruno. And Sandro. Who's the referee? Give us the ref watch update for this game.
Okay, so I've managed to get a couple of little bits out for this one. So man in the middle for Sunday's game is going to be Anthony Taylor of Altrincham in Cheshire, the famous Man United fan who does Man United games. It's his first appointment to an NUFC game this season. He was referee in the Bournemouth versus Chelsea game in September, and the reason I'm bringing this up is, if you remember, hang on, I will just check my note. For Chris Kavanagh in the cup game against Chelsea, I have mentioned that he issued 13 yellow cards in a single game. Wow. Well, Anthony Taylor can top that, and in that Chelsea versus Bournemouth game, he issued 14 yellow cards. So, he's not afraid to use that card and issue out some discipline when it's required.
So what you're saying is Jordan's missing the West Ham game. Is that what you're saying?
Quite possibly.
Fabian share consecutive yellow cards after before 10 minutes again.
Too right, yeah. So like I said, it's his first game for us this season. He did 4 of our games last season. We had a 2-2 draw at Wolves, the 4-2 loss at Anfield, the 4-1 win at Burnley, which was the last time that we saw him. However, the important one out of those 4 is the one I'm going to mention now, which was a 3-2 win at Nottingham Forest. So he's did the corresponding game last season, which we did quite well in. His stats for last season were 27 games refereed, issuing 134 yellows and 4 reds, which was the most out of all of the top flight referees in their pool. 27 was the highest amount of games. I think he was 2 clear of second place in the end. And in this season, he's done 9 games. He's issued 45 yellow cards in those 9 games and 1 red. And he currently sits joint top on most games refereed with our very own Michael Oliver. VAR man in the room at Stockley Park for this one is going to be Tim Robinson, a name we're already familiar with. He is the man who disallowed the Bournemouth winner down at the Vitality back in August.
I'm glad to see him back.
That's the boys.
There we go. So expect plenty of cards, disallowed VAR goals, and we'll see what happens. Well, there we have it. Boys, does anybody want to add anything before we move on to our predictions?
I think I'm good.
Well, that's a first. There we go. No one's going to add anything. Let's move on to our predictions then. Andy, mate, you said you couldn't predict this one.
I say it all the time because I'm a bottler. I never want to commit.
Yeah, what did your mate say?
I haven't asked it. I've been in the office this week. I haven't had a chance to ask anyone. No, I do think this is going to be really, really hard. I think Forest fans are going to be right up for this. It's top atmosphere. They get Muller Kintyre playing before the game, gets the crowd going. They've got that kind of unique chant that really gets the crowd going, and I think they'll see this as a massive opportunity just to plant the flag in the sand and say, we're not just beating rubbish teams. We can turn up and beat anyone. Not that I'm putting us on a pedestal or anything. So I actually think we'd do well to get a score draw out of this. Just with the way Forest are, I think we want to keep our run going. If we got a win out of this game, I think that's an unbelievable result. Maybe as good as beating Chelsea and beating Arsenal, just for the way things are at the minute, because Forest are a club on the rise. No one else has really found an answer to beat them, apart from Fulham and us earlier in the season, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to say 1-1 with apparently 19 yellow cards.
There we go. 1-1, 19 yellow cards. Excellent.
I'm going to say Isak on score sheet again, and Chris Wood for them.
Isak and Wood. Not Elliot Anderson. Couldn't
I can't
stomach
possibly predict that.
You can have an assist.
Matt Sells can score as far as I'm concerned, as long as it's not Anderson.
oh goodness me, I think I'm in a similar boat to Andy here. I'm going to go for a score draw as well, but I'm going to go for a good old-fashioned Desmond, and it's going to be 2-2. I think it'll be a really tight game. There's a potential for it to swing either way really narrowly as well. If you asked me when going into this game either earlier this season or last season, I would have said that front three, the pace of the two wingers that support Chris Wood would have frightened me to death. But we're now on a little bit of a roll here with two really good results against Chelsea and Arsenal, and obviously our two fullbacks now are younger, faster, better.
Great point.
And probably able to deal with that sort of lightning pace that Forest will try and utilise down the wing. So I think we might be in a better position to deal with that. But yeah, I'm still thinking 2-2, and I feel like it's going to be Chris Wood and probably Elanga for them. And for us, I'm going to say Isak and you know what it is? I fancy Joe Willock to get one, like he did in the cup.
Nice.
Preferably after 30 seconds again.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Yeah,
get him straight in after 30 seconds.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Scott?
Well, we kind of go for 3 draws.
Of course you can.
Yeah, I can.
People have a go at us anyway.
I actually do think we'll get a win, even though I said I kind of go for 3 draws. I do think we might sneak a win. It will be a sneaked win, by the way. I don't think it's going to be a rollover by any stretch of the imagination. But I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. I think it'll be very tight. And I only say that I think because there'll be a potential false sense of security from Forest because we played them earlier on when we weren't playing well in the season, and I think that maybe will be an expectation that we're going to show up and play like that again. I know our away form hasn't been great this season so far, but we're on a bit of a roll. We're starting to play cohesively. Our back line's good. Our centre midfield is good, or midfield as a whole. When we drop into that that 5 in midfield and protect the back 4, and I just feel like we're really hard to break down at the moment. We're good on the counter attack, so yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. I think it's going to be a Chris Wood goal for them. I think it's going to be an early Chris Wood goal for them, but I think we'll kind of pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, and be really hard to break down from there. And we'll just frustrate them, and it'll get to the point where we break on counterattacks, and I think they'll see that they can get more out of the game, which will cause them to either make mistakes or leave gaps, which we can capitalise on, and we'll do that. And I'm going for an Anthony Gordon opener, and I'm going to go for an Alexander Isak winner.
Do you think Anderson or Wood would celebrate if they scored?
I think Chris Wood would. Chris Wood would?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Chris Wood would too.
Didn't he celebrate all 3 last season?
I think he did, didn't he?
I don't think he did the whole.
I think Elliott's the most likely not to celebrate out of the 2.
Yeah, I don't think Anderson
would make a point of not celebrating. I think he would do the whole holding his hands up thing.
Yeah.
Maybe he hits the griddy in front of the away end. Who knows?
I think with Anderson, if he was at St James's, I think if Anderson's at St James's, it's very much like an Anthony Gordon situation at Goodison Park, where he doesn't perform to anything like he would do. I think that would happen. Anderson at the City Ground, I don't know. It's not a very big ground in that regard. So I think our away fans have a good chance of maybe getting under his skin a little bit as well.
Yeah,
they're on song. We'll see what happens. Maybe we can get to him a little bit. I don't want that to happen, but it could happen. We'll see. Maybe he doesn't play. Maybe he doesn't feel up for it. We'll see what happens. We've talked about Minty. We've talked about Marino. Maybe it's the same thing will happen to Elliot Anderson. We'll see what happens. But yeah, back to my prediction. I think 2-1. I think we'll frustrate them. I think they'll go ahead, but then I think we will absolutely frustrate them because they'll want to get more goals, and I don't think we'll be able to do it. They'll be able to do it, and we'll capitalise on their mistakes. But we'll see. Forest fans, you were very vocal on our last preview for the Cup. So please be our guest. Scroll down from this, leave us comments, be more vocal. Let us know what you think.
We've been really complimentary about Forest.
And we have been very
Best be
complimentary about you.
nice.
We were very complimentary about you last time. We made one comment about PSR, and he's picked up
Yeah.
on that.
Soz.
So go easy on with this time. We've been very nice about you because you are very good this season. I know I've predicted we're going to beat you, but we know we'll 2 draws. But we're a Newcastle fan channel. Of course, we're going to predict
course.
wins.
Yeah.
We've just beat Arsenal for Christ's sake. How are we? So yeah. Scroll down from this. Let me know what you think the game's going to go. What you think your prediction's going to be. How are you enjoying Elliot Anderson? How are you looking after our little Geordie Maradona?
Yeah, keep him well.
Is he the next best thing since sliced bread or sliced stotty cakes? And you know, are you keeping an eye on him when we're definitely buy him back in 2 years' time because we've got that first refusal? I don't think we have. I don't know how the contract's going, but I'd like to think we do.
I've got a way we can get loads of comments off the Forest fans, by the way. Just need to call them Notts Forest. So, Notts Forest fans, send your comments in, please. And Nottingham County fans as well, if you
Yeah. There you go.
I'll do it.
God.
There you go. So that's Andy.Burnham at Hotmail.
Hey, that's close, that.
You didn't underscore it there.
Nearly.
His MSN is at a burn. No,
My BB pin is 19.
BB pin, and his ICQ number is 749368743. Yeah, I'm going back there. And if you don't know what ICQ is, ask your dad. Boys, I'm going to leave it at that. Actually, I'm not, because I forgot to tell everyone while they're down there leaving their comments. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when we have new videos go live. Hit the thumbs up if you've liked it, hit the thumbs down if you haven't. And if you want to become a member, it's $2.99 a month. We've just put up a members only video of Canny Chatter. It's live on the channel today. If you've listened to the audio and you want to hear more of it, and why wouldn't you? You can get the YouTube video and you'll get 30 minutes, or I think it's even 35-40 minutes of extra content from that episode. So have a butcher's at that. It's $2.99 a month and you'll get access to that as well as access to other exclusive videos. Yes.
Did you remember that there's a Beyond the Lines as well?
There is a Beyond the Lines. I was getting to that, Daryl.
Oh, sorry.
We will. Chris is doing a Beyond the Lines with a Notts Forest County fan. It's Robin Hood.
God.
No, it's not Robin Hood. It's the Sheriff of Nottingham.
I was going to say it's the Sheriff.
On with Chris talking about all things Nottingham. No, it's not. I don't know who he's got on there, because the picture he put up was the game in our group chat, so no idea who it's going to be, but there will be someone on. So we'll be getting a fan's view from their perspective as well. So if you don't leave comments, we've got someone on anyway, but that'll be on the channel very, very soon. Yeah, I'm sick of talking now, so I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Daryl. Thanks, Andy. Enjoy your Wednesday night. Enjoy, everyone. Call me Chef.
Cheers, Jeff.
Cheers,
Oh, Jeff. This is Chef. So what's all that about?
Well, if you want. What a shambles of an ending. Bye.
Bye.
I know. See you later. Ta-ra.